A 550 square foot apartment in Beijing costs $1.2 million, more expensive per square foot than Palo Alto, California, home of Google, Tesla, and people who think $8 coffee is reasonable. But this isn't about tech bros or venture capital, it's about kindergarten. Chinese parents are dropping 7 figures for the right zip code so their 4-year-old can attend the correct elementary school. The same parents in America would call that insane. In China, it's standard practice for families who want their children to access top-tier schools. Why Chinese students spend more hours studying in a week than most Americans spend at their actual jobs. Or how one test transforms 13 million teenagers into competitors for 500,000 spots. Today's video examines why Chinese students study like their lives depend on it. Because the system is designed so they do. Let's talk about the Gaokao, 3 syllables that strike fear into every Chinese parent's heart like a diagnosis you can't pronounce. The National College Entrance Examination. 9 hours of testing spread across 3 days. 1 score, 1 chance per year. Your entire academic career compressed into a number that determines everything. The numbers are brutal. In 2024, 13.5 million students took the exam. That's more than the population of Belgium taking the same test on the same day. Only 500,000, just 5%, get into the top 100 universities. To get into Tsinghua or Peking University, China's Harvard and Yale, your odds are 5 in 10,000. Vegas gives you better odds at roulette. But here's where the system reveals its real cost. Schools in Hebei province installed suicide barriers on dormitory balconies, not as decoration, because the pressure became fatal. A 2014 study found Gaokao stress was a factor in 93% of high school suicide cases documented in that research. On test days, parents wait outside testing centers for hours. Cops redirect traffic. Construction sites shut down to reduce noise. The entire country reorganizes around teenagers deciding their fate with a number 2 pencil. This isn't exam season. This is a national emergency that happens every single year. So how do students prepare for this gladiator match disguised as an exam? The data tells the story. Chinese high school students spend 13 hours per week on homework alone. American students, 5.5 hours. Asian students study more than double, but the homework is just the beginning. Add in school hours. Chinese students clock 10 to 14 hours per day in school or studying. That's 77 hours per week. Investment bankers would call their union. The pattern is consistent. Wake at 6 a.m., school until 5:30 p.m., homework until 11 p.m., sleep. Repeat. For years. Research shows 87.6% of Shanghai high schoolers regularly finish homework after 11 p.m. Their sleep drops below 8 hours at age 12. But the studying doesn't stop at school. Private tutoring centers, cram schools, consume weekends. Friday night, 3 hours of math tutoring. Sunday, 4 hours of English and physics. Nearly half of all Chinese students attend these programs. The economics are staggering. Parents spend over $120 billion annually on prep courses. That's billion with a B. That's more than some countries' entire education budgets. Chinese families dedicate 17% of household income to education, 5 times the global average. Here's where the inequality becomes visible. The poorest families spend 57% of their income on education. More than half of everything they earn goes to their kids' schooling. The wealthiest families spend only 11%, but can afford exponentially more resources. The system claims to measure merit while charging admission at different price points. Western media loves blaming tiger moms. Amy Chua published one book, and suddenly every Chinese parent became a villain in a Disney movie. But this narrative misses the actual mechanism. The parenting style has a name in Chinese culture. Guan, which translates roughly to love and to govern. In Confucian tradition, pushing your child to excel isn't cruelty. It's the definition of proper care. For over 2,000 years, China has used exams to determine social status. Imperial civil service exams decided who ran the country. Passing meant wealth, status, power. Failing meant generational poverty. This system got encoded into cultural expectations. Education became the class elevator. The scholar official held higher status than wealthy landowners or merchants. Even today, that belief persists that education is your ticket out, or your ticket to staying in. But here's what research actually shows about tiger parenting. Studies found that harsh, hostile, high-pressure parenting, the stereotype, describes only about 25% of Chinese American families. And those tiger parent kids? They had lower GPAs than kids with supportive parents, lower educational attainment, worse developmental outcomes. The stereotype exists, but it's not the success mechanism people think it is. What actually drives Chinese students isn't parents yelling. It's the structure of interdependent culture. Chinese families operate as collective units. Individual success reflects on the entire family line. Individual failure carries collective shame. In America, the cultural message is, follow your passion. In China, the message is, secure your family's future. One prioritizes individual fulfillment. The other prioritizes collective survival. Guess which one produces 77-hour study weeks? But if you think this is just about education, you're missing the actual system design. The Gaokao isn't just an exam, it's a political instrument. The Chinese government controls curricula, exam content, and university admission quotas. They decide how many engineering students versus humanities students each province produces. They steer talent into STEM fields needed for technological competition with the West. And here's the mechanism that maintains the illusion, is that the system creates perceived fairness while distributing privilege unequally. In Shanghai, 79% of students can expect university admission. In Beijing, 77%. But in Henan province, China's most populous region with 98 million people, only 47% get in. Henan has 1.36 million students taking Gaokao this year, one top-tier university. The exam difficulty? Not standardized. Different provinces get different exams. Students in Beijing avoid practice tests from Shandong and Jiangsu provinces because everyone knows those versions are harder than what Beijing students will face. The pattern is clear. The poorest, most rural students get harder tests and fewer spots. The wealthiest, most urban students get easier tests and more spots. But everyone believes the system is meritocratic because there's an exam. This belief, that fairness is possible through testing, keeps the entire system stable. The exam gives hope, just enough hope to prevent questioning the structure. Meanwhile, elite university graduates get funneled into state sector jobs with subsidized housing, premium healthcare, and top schools for their children. Gaokao doesn't just determine your job, it determines your entire social class and your children's starting position. The test doesn't break the class system, it legitimizes it while appearing to challenge it. So what does all this pressure actually produce? The test scores are undeniable. Chinese 15-year-olds dominate international math assessments. On the 2022 PISA exam, China scored around 552 in mathematics. The US, 465. That's an 87-point gap. China ranks among global leaders. America falls below the OECD average. Chinese students flood STEM fields globally. Engineering programs at top Western universities have significant Chinese enrollment. Medical schools, tech companies, research labs, Chinese graduates are everywhere. But the system produces a specific trade-off. Years of rote memorization and exam drilling create what critics call robot students, exceptional at executing instructions, limited in innovation capacity. The mental health data tells the other half of the story. Nearly half of Chinese students surveyed report feeling frustrated, with damaged self-esteem from endless studying. over 20% say they feel suffocated and want to tear up their exercise books. Sleep deprivation is normalized. Research documented cases of students experiencing sudden death in classrooms, with chronic sleep deprivation listed as a contributing factor. And then there's the "sang" culture emerging among young Chinese adults. The term describes a generation exhibiting reduced work ethic, no self-motivation, widespread apathy. They observed the Gaokao above all system and concluded that traditional success requires sacrificing too much. When the only path forward demands your entire childhood, some percentage of the population stops pursuing it. China's education system produces world-class test takers, but it's also producing a generation questioning whether the exchange rate was worth it. So why do Chinese students study so hard? The simple answers people want: tiger moms, cultural values, Confucian tradition, miss the actual mechanism. The real answer is systems design. Historical legacy meets political control, meets economic desperation, meets family pressure, all compressed into one exam that determines everything. Chinese students study 77 hours a week because one test controls access to universities, because families bet 57% of their income on education outcomes, because 500,000 spots exist for 13 million students, because the alternative to university, vocational training, means dramatically reduced lifetime earnings and social status. They study because the system leaves no viable alternative for families seeking upward mobility or even maintaining current class position. But here's the pattern everyone misses. The system that appears to be about academic excellence is actually about something else entirely: maintaining stability through controlled hope. The Gaokao distributes just enough opportunity to keep people believing, just enough social mobility to prevent widespread questioning of the structure. But it distributes privilege carefully, keeping elite urban students on top while rural students face systematically worse odds. It's not meritocracy, it's the performance of meritocracy. And that performance works because everyone needs to believe that hard work matters, that studying 77 hours a week means something, that one test can change everything. Sometimes it does, for the lucky 5%. For everyone else, they spent their childhood memorizing answers to questions that don't predict real-world success, chasing advancement through a system designed to limit how many people can advance. The real question isn't why Chinese students study so hard. It's what happens when a generation realizes they sacrificed everything for a test, and the test was designed to fail most of them from the start. And if you want to understand more systems that look fair but aren't, hit subscribe. Trust me, you don't want to miss it.